the Ron and Brian Podcast. Get ready to fill your ears with the latest news, politics, current events, and whatever else we feel like talking about this week. And now, your hosts, Ron and Brian.
And good evening, everybody. It is Sunday night. It's 8 o'clock, and it is time for episode 321 of the Ron and Brian Podcast. Quite the lineup of news and stories for you tonight. Hard to believe, Brian. It is less than a week since the presidential debate, since we found out that our dogs and cats are not safe out there. Our children, guns aren't the problem in schools, Brian. It is teachers performing sex change operations. It has been a wild week, and we will get into it shortly. But more importantly, Brian, how the hell are you tonight?
I'm doing wonderful. This weekend just flew by, but it also feels like the week flew by. It was a week filled with emotional ups and downs, lefts and rights. But the one thing that has always kept me centered was the ability to pick up my telephonic device, pull up my text messages, and know that you were only, a message away. That is what keeps me centered. And I wanted to let you know I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate your appreciation. Is that by the way, is that a B-Gob t-shirt you're rocking tonight?
Oh, you're goddamn right it is. I love Broken Goblet. And one of the, not just for their choice of fine adult beverages that they have to serve to the public, but also they've got a great merch game. Very clever. Their shirts are always good. Can't remember which visit. However, we've got another trip coming up. I will probably be picking up another
Halloween
shirt.
Coming up in about 5 weeks, I believe.
Have you thought about costumes?
I have actually thought about costumes. I'm going to keep it close to the vest, but I have an idea in mind. What about yourself, Brian? Because you're not a man who typically likes costumes.
Not a costume guy. Probably not dressing up this year.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's get right to it then with Drink of the Week.
Drink of the Week.
Na zdrowie.
Salud.
Drink of the Week.
Sláinte.
Pause.
Drink of the Week. Drink of the Week. Drink of the Week. Drink of the Week.
Brian, what are you drinking tonight, my friend?
Mi amigo. This week are my fine friends over at the Seven Tribesmen Brewery. I had one of their beers, I would say maybe 2 weeks ago, quite possibly. Don't remember which one. This week brings their Jaguar Night, which is a Mexican-style lager. Look at the fine coloring on this one. Look, just slightly cloudy. But let me tell you about Jaguar Night. The Jaguar Knights, Ron, they were an elite Aztec warrior group that fought with the strength of jaguars and wielded clubs studded with obsidian glass blades. That's also what kills White Walkers, obsidian.
They weren't they weren't a USFL team?
No.
Okay.
The Jaguar Knights?
Apologize. No, I thought, but apologies. Please continue.
We didn't see the Jaguar Knights in Albany that year?
I feel like we did, but again, I'm interrupting your promo here, so please.
It's okay. I interrupt you enough. It's time for you to get some revenge. But becoming a Jaguar Knight came with privileges, such as being allowed to drink pulque, a fermented drink made from agave sap. The fine folks at Seven Tribesmen skipped the sap, but used flaked maize instead for a clean, crisp, Mexican-style beer with very little bitterness. This one's coming in at a surprising 5.8 ABV for a lager. Normally, you're looking in the 4%. This is almost 6. I've got 2 of these today to drink, and let me take my first sip.
I mean, it looks like a fine beer. Looks like a lot of craftsmanship went into that. You look perplexed, though.
I was waiting for some bitterness, but there is no bitterness.
All right.
That is quite refreshing. Or as they say in Mexico, Refresco. Ron, what are you drinking?
So, Brian, I went out to try a new beer. Brian, are you familiar with Jason Kelsey? I believe his brother Travis introduced some pop singer to the masses last NFL season. But Jason's retired and literally promoting every single thing known to man out there right now. I've seen him do Wawa. What else? Courtyard by Marriott he signed a deal with. But he's also, Brian, promoting something called Garage Beer. They've got 2 beers out there, regular and their classic lime. From their website, it says it's a classic German-style lager that tastes like a beer. Light, refreshing, crushable dad beer. Hang out with the neighborhood, hit the golf course, be a dude. No more bitterness, bloated tummy, or cray ABV. Of course, there is a time and place for a high ABV, but not at Garage Beer. This is a 4% low-cal, low-carb, looking very crushable, if you will, right there, Brian. Look at that body. Look at it, I say.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yep. Tasty. Very, very tasty. I would guarantee that you would enjoy this. It's very much like a little more flavorful Corona, if you will.
So we're both drinking some very light lagers this week.
We
without
are
even coordinating. That's the impressive part. Muy simpático.
We are.
Simpático.
I was literally about to use the word simpatico, and you used the word simpatico. That's how simpatico we are. Simpatico grande, I think we are. All right, let's keep it going, Brian. Beef of the week time.
Ron and Brian's Beef of the Week.
Brian, what's bothering you this week?
Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction is my beef of the week.
Why is that?
Most people are not going to go with that because I believe he has no business leading a band on stage in today's day and age. In 2024, that man has no right to pick up a microphone. As friends of the show are aware, this past Tuesday, I took myself out, went to Pier 17, I think it's called, over on the east side of Manhattan, just off of South Street, Seaport. Everybody's familiar with that. Right below the Brooklyn Bridge, I saw Jane's Addiction and Love and Rockets perform outdoors, or as the kids like to call it, al fresco. I will say that starts off Love and Rockets, amazing. They sound incredible. Definitely, they're still they are at the top of their game. Band comes off, stage change, sun's going down, lights dim. Jane's Addiction takes the stage. At this point, keep in mind, Ron, this is a band I have never seen before in my life. I have been a fan since high school. High school.
All right.
I will never forgive my mother. Gotta love Dawn up there. Love you, Mom. I will never forgive her. When I was a senior in high school, Jane's Addiction was playing a small club in Brooklyn. And my best friend at the time, Victor, his brother was in the opening band that day. So he could have gotten us in for free. Okay. And he was just like, come on down. It's going to be a great show. And Victor and I were like, let's go. Victor got approval from his parents to go to the concert. This is before Uber. So this would have required a subway ride from deep out into Queens, into Manhattan, down through Manhattan, all the way to the southern tip of Brooklyn. My mom was not cool with that. And if you've seen photos of me in high school, you will realize in hindsight, the woman was correct. This face at the age of 17 screamed victim to every hoodlum that would have been on the subway at 2:00 in the morning, because that was when concerts were late. Headliners didn't go on until midnight. So she was like, no, you can't go. This was a small club. The next time they came around, I believe they were playing Madison Square Garden. So they just launched right after I had that opportunity. But I never saw them. So Perry Farrell comes out, can't sing for shit, sounded terrible. Band sounded amazing. He actually made the band sound better. Then it was, you could see throughout the set, they were dropping songs, removing the set list in between songs because they were just clear that, there were songs he was not going to be able to sing. He wasn't going to hit the notes. It was embarrassing. Halfway through the set, he, says like, I'm sorry, there's something wrong with my voice today. I'm so sorry. Meanwhile, slurring his words, the man was either high or the man was drunk, which might have been cool if I was in high school. However, at this day and age, with the level of exposure I've had, to the professional musician lifestyle, I understand that, it's when you hit the stage, that's your job. Be the best that you can be. Much like this podcast, when I'm doing this podcast, I need to be sober going into it. If I'm not sober doing this podcast, it's, I can't even imagine how embarrassing it would be. Like how shameful would it be if I started to slur my words or stop paying attention to you while you were talking and then just like came in and asked a question that you would literally just answer 2 sentences before. That would be embarrassing. And I imagine
be outraged.
Fans would be dropping off. This was the Perry Farrell that hit that stage at Pier 17. Sounded terrible. Everybody that I spoke to that was in the crowd that day was sitting there saying, this is the worst we've ever seen him. Lo and behold, for those people who are in the know in the music scene, 2 nights later in Boston, he attacked the guitar player, Dave Navarro. I believe they've canceled the rest of the tour. Not really sure. But the days of Jane's Addiction, who knows what's going to happen. Perry Farrell, my beef of the week.
All right.
Ron?
Yes.
What's bothering you?
So this week, and again, relatively good week. I'll go out on a limb and say that not a lot bothered me this week, but I've got a beef with American Airlines, Brian, in the fact, you're a man who travels extensively, gains a little miles, gets some miles on your credit card. Why does American Airlines make it so difficult to utilize those miles? Like, I'm flying to Miami this week, and it's like, it's a very low cost to upgrade to first class, but it's a business trip, so I can't write that off. But I'm like, maybe I can use some of my miles. There's no way to upgrade the miles to try and get an upgrade. You can request an upgrade, but how do you have to request it? You got to call and you got to wait on hold and request an upgrade. Like, why in this day and age? Like, I'm staying in a Marriott, of course, and I was able to request an upgrade through the app for my room. Why can't I do that for my plane ticket, Brian? Tell me this.
Okay, I'll tell you why. Because American Airlines is one of the worst airlines that does not rhyme with Frontier or Spirit. I've never had a good experience on American since maybe I was a kid. I remember when I was a kid, you used to get a deck of cards on American Airlines. The stewardess would give me a little lapel pin. Keep in mind, I was wearing a T-shirt with the wings for American Air. No, not anymore. At this point, I'm going to say that they give you points with the goal of ensuring that you don't get to use them.
Right.
They were called stewardesses back then. Now they're referred to as flight attendants. So if I was talking about right now and the flight attendant served me a stale piece of bread with my meal, that would be a flight attendant. Back in the day, they were stewardesses. You stand corrected. I am never wrong. High five. Ron, keep going. Yeah. So did you pick up the phone and call American Airlines or did you just give up?
Because I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to, like, I've got an aisle seat. It's what I like. It's a big plane. I'm not going to be crammed in, but it just, for a flight, I was like, maybe if I can splurge a little bit,
sure.
I'll use some of these points, but yeah, just aggravating.
Why would you not be able to write it off if you were upgrading to first class?
Well, it's not a business expense. Like our policy is to fly just economy or coach or what have you.
Oh, meaning I thought you meant it in an IRS term that you couldn't write it off. I didn't realize you wouldn't be able to be reimbursed for it. That's a big difference. Okay, now I understand. What you mean. Correct.
As long as you
that would piss me off. That would bother me.
So it is what it is. I mean, I'll get there and back, God willing.
Sure.
And then that's all there is to it. Hey, you know what, Brian? It's week 2 of the NFL season.
Locks.
Now I'm going to cut you off right off the bat because I know you've been very congratulatory to me, but I want to say, Brian, kudos to you, my friend, for another 2-0 week here in week 2. You were looking at that LA Rams Arizona game. You saw the Rams were favored by 2.5. You said, you know what? Don't sleep on these 2024 Cardinals and Marvin Harrison Jr. And you were right to say so. Harrison grabbing a couple scores, Arizona winning 41-10. And then you had the Chargers as -3.5. You're like, Chargers are going to ball out today on the Panthers. And they did, 26-3. How do you do it, Brian? So early in the season, how do you keep with that level of consistency when these are some of the tougher games to pick because we haven't seen these teams play a lot yet?
I do it by watching you, Ron. Every week, week in, week out, I sit there and I look at you. I look at the picks you make. I study the statistics, check the box scores, look at weather patterns, and I say, how does this man go 2-0 again every week? And I start to see if I follow the patterns that you're looking for, I start to see them. But I'm going to tell you, any success that I've had in the NFL is simply by writing your coattails. Ron, you started off week 1 2-0. You came back again this week with another 2-0, 4-0 for the season. You truly are my champ. Seahawks laying 3.5 over the Patriots. Your ability to thread a needle makes you, I mean, you're better than a seamstress. Seahawks winning 23-20, but you said last week, don't sleep on these Patriots. I don't think they're going to win, but they're definitely going to cover. They cover by 0.5 point. Ron, you're a master at that. Not even done. Commanders laying 2.5 over the sore New York Giants. What do the Commanders win by? 3. That's right.
Oh.
Both games you bet this week were won by 0.5 point. You're on the right side of both those. Ron, I'd like to ask you how you do it, but I know, and I just think it is just pure genius. What do you have for week 3?
For week 3, Brian, these Carolina Panthers look like the New York Jets of this season. I like Las Vegas at home -4.5. And then Vikings looked solid today, but yet our home dogs to the Houston Texans coming in. I'm taking Minnesota +3.5. Lock it in. Brian, who do you like in week 3?
The Giants, they had their opportunity to win this week. They did not. Next week, they are going to have a rebound loss, this time by many points. Browns of Cleveland laying 6.5. I think this is the week that Johnny Mayer, what's the kid's name? The quarterback for the Browns? Johnny
Watson?
Football. No, Johnny Football is coming.
Johnny Football.
Johnny Football this week. The Browns are going to win by at least 7. Also, the New Orleans Saints, I believe, may be the best team this year. They are at home against the Philadelphia Eagles, getting points. Oh, I will take those points. 3.5 points. Give me the Saints.
All right. Well, as always, we tell you, bet with your head, not over it. Don't wager money you can't afford to lose, but we rarely lose. So feel pretty comfortable putting your money down on that. Brian, we have stories of the week, the stories that we like to make sure don't slip through the cracks, that we get them on here. We get to talk to people about them. We've got a ton of stuff, but let's not miss our stories of the week. What do you have for your story of the week this week, Brian?
Last week was all about a porch pooper. Okay. You know, it was, I took it upon myself to sit there and say, people of, I think it was Indiana. I could be wrong. I really don't remember where it was. Be careful of a man approaching.
It was Louisville. I remember that.
Louisville, Kentucky. You're correct. You're absolutely correct. Louisville Slugger. you know what? We are not done with exposing awful behavior by men in the world. This week, we go to my home state of New Jersey, where in South Brunswick, we are alerting residents of an apartment complex in Monmouth Junction called the Royal Oaks Apartment. There, a nude man was seen pleasuring himself in front of women outside of his apartment complex. The creep, as the New York Post referred to him, over the last several months has made a habit of stripping off his clothes and accosting women near the Royal Oaks apartment. If you are anywhere near the Royal Oaks apartment in New Jersey, Monmouth Junction, avoid this man. Now, if you see a shirtless man with what looks to be a ski mask approaching you, please look away. He has masturbated in front of as many as 6 women at the complex in a nearby wooded area. Police are still looking for him. Usually, the hours of the time are between 11 p.m. and 2:30. What, Ron? You're asking the question of why are women walking around at 11 and 2:30 in the morning? That's not a fair question.
I wasn't asking that, but all right.
Women have every right to leave their house in safety, regardless of the hour of the day. I do not appreciate that insinuation you're making, Ron. We do not agree with it. He's still out there, people. So if you do see a man who is naked, masturbating with the ski mask on, South Brunswick Police Department would appreciate if you gave them a call. Do not approach this man, for he is considered to be armed with a penis.
Do you have a ski mask handy that you could just kind of throw on real quick, just for curiosity's sake?
Nope, my eyebrows are way lighter than those.
Because I've often noticed you have 11 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. blocked out on your calendar fairly consistently.
Are you kidding me? I know you're going to joke that that's me, but anybody who knows me or anybody who's willing to listen to me for more than 15 minutes knows 10:30 is my bedtime. You can ask Mrs. Bryan. I get grouchy if it's 11 o'clock and I'm still awake. I want to be in bed by that time. Heaven forbid outside at 2:30. There's no way that's going to be me. Not
fair enough,
whatsoever.
my friend. Fair enough.
Ron?
Yes.
What's your story of the week?
So this is, we do love ourselves a good Disney story on this podcast. And here is one. Are you familiar with Club 33 at Walt Disney World?
I believe that is Club 33 is a group. If you have sex on the 33rd or higher floor of the Disney Towers complex in Orlando, you are considered to be part of Group 33. Club 30.
Not quite. No. Apparently, it is a very exclusive club that you can join with Disney that allows you special access. Basically, it's one of those deals where you spend a ridiculous amount of money to allow yourself to spend even more ridiculous amounts of money throughout the year at Disney. So these are the Andersons right here. This is a photo of them at a Disney event back in 2014. So this is Scott and Diana Anderson. So they had saved up for 20 years, Brian, and were on a wait list for a decade. And eventually back in 2012, got an invitation to join Disney's exclusive Club 33. For that first year, their membership fee was $10,000, which they felt was worth it because they had tons of amazing experiences. They were spending, Brian, nearly $125,000 a year on Disney experiences. Now, that all ended in 2017 when Disney revoked their membership from the private club after an allegation that Scott Anderson was drunk in public. Scott's reply was, "I had 2 beers and half a glass of wine." He said, he had a medical condition triggered by red wine that caused him to react in a manner where the security thought he was drunk. So because he was drunk in the park, they revoked this membership back in 2007, and they have been suing since that very day to try and get Disney to allow them back into Club 33. Would you like to guess how much they spent on the lawsuit, Brian?
I'm going to say they spent $40,000.
Oh, Brian, they have spent over the years $400,000 suing
What?
Disney over this. And they lost their most recent lawsuit. So apparently they say they're going to continue appealing this, but an Orange County jury rejected the claim that Disney had ousted them improperly. They believe that they were targeted for retaliation because they had complained about a club member harassing other members and staff. So we shall see how this continues. Right now, Brian, that Club 33 membership, $32,000 a year now, up from $10,000 when they joined back in 2012.
What are the benefits of this club?
I mean, apparently you get special events, like they were at like a private Halloween party at the Haunted Mansion. They got to stay over in Cinderella's castle. Apparently, so again, you have special access at the park, but it basically allows you to spend ridiculous amounts of money on these very exclusive experiences within the park.
Listen, I'm happy to say that I can't remember. I mean, Disney gets my $9.99 a month for my Disney Plus online subscription, which I'm happy to share with just about anybody because fuck Disney. But I am happy to say that I refuse to spend my money on Disney. In all the years I lived in Florida, I never went to Disney. Absolutely terrible. I don't understand Disney adults, and nobody can explain it to me.
And this is the part I don't get is, they're spending, by their own admission, over $100,000 a year at Disney. Sure. And, if I'm spending that much on a business and the business like kicks me out, and maybe there's a misunderstanding, like I would reach out to them once and say, listen, this is a misunderstanding. You need to let me back in. If they say no, I'm just going to take that money and spend it somewhere else. Like I'm not going to drop $400,000 at a place that clearly does not want me there.
Just like you decided you're no longer going to fly American Airlines after this debacle with Ron going to the 305.
I have no choice because we're a hub for Americans, so tough to catch other flights out here. I have caught a Spirit flight before, and I'm not going to do that again.
You could always drive up to Newark.
It's true. I could take the train up there. It's a very easy. I love I'm a fan of the train, Brian.
Love the train.
Much like you used to say in college, you were the fan of a train. Still. So, Brian, all eyes were on Philadelphia this past Tuesday night for the first and quite possibly last presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Brian, did you watch the debate?
No, I was at the Jane's Addiction concert.
That's right.
I watched highlights the next morning, and from what it looked like, it appeared that Kamala just was everything that Joe Biden was not during the first presidential debate. She was articulate. She was fast on her feet. She was intelligent. She gave a sense of personality and did not at any point seem like she had dementia. I did not get a real sense of Donald Trump's performance, I will say. The sources of information I was receiving from the left-wing media just basically trounced him, talked about what a terrible job he did, how he sounded like a raving lunatic, paranoid, made wild claims, and was just delusional. But I could not get a sense whether that was just, CNN with their, perspective they were already going to have, or whether he really did perform as poorly as they said.
Right. A few of the recaps I watched praised him for his first half hour, like he was able to stay on message. And then after he started taking the bait that Kamala was throwing out there, really just got him unhinged. Great point by Allie. He popped into the spin room at the end, like literally standing around, waiting for people to ask him questions. And that was when he first learned that Taylor Swift had supported Kamala, had announced her support right after the debate. And yes, apparently the immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, they're eating the dogs,
Eating the
cats, the people's pets, they're disappearing, they're being eaten. That was so. If there were two takeaways, again, dogs and the cats are being eaten, and
Sure.
you're sending little Jimmy off to school, and he's coming back with a horrific operation having been done to him. And I don't know about you, but that filled my TikTok algorithm for all week, were people making fun of those two things.
I did not see that reference. What is little Jim? What's happening to little Jimmy?
So he's going to school, Brian. And because you've got these liberal teachers and this agenda about teaching, gender equity and everything else, these teachers are performing apparently sex change operations on these children because they want to transition at the age of 8, apparently.
So the teachers are performing these surgeries?
Well, we're not exactly sure. The kids are going to
He's
the
not
school.
sure. Right.
He's not sure. He's
not
hearing
sure
things. People are saying, Brian, he's not saying this. People are saying it. But
that's his move. That's his go-to move. A lot of people are saying.
You send Jimmy off to school, and Jimmy comes home, and Jimmy has gone through a horrible surgery. So is it the teachers? Is it a emergency room somewhere at the school? I mean, I have to imagine these teachers who are paying for construction paper and glue out of their own pockets, I don't think they have the money to be running an operating room.
No,
just
not
my
at all.
2 cents.
I would agree with that. I mean, they're borrowing money to help with school supplies. How are they?
Right.
How are they performing? First off, I mean, a lot of these school teachers, they've got those little small scissors. If you remember, you can't perform surgery with those little scissors. They're not sharp enough.
You cannot remove a penis and turn it into a vagina with those safety scissors. I think that's...
And you know that for a fact because you tried, if I'm not correct, during our 20th anniversary show, the Ron and Brian podcast, 20th anniversary show, you said that you are going to perform a sex change operation using nothing but items that you could find in your average first grade classroom. And if I'm not correct, you were not able to successfully perform that surgery.
I was not. So, lesson learned. But yeah, so apparently this rumor started with an August meeting. The dogs and cats rumor started with an August meeting of the Springfield City Commission, where a 28-year-old man claimed, without any evidence, of course, that Haitian migrants were beheading ducks at local parks and taking them home to eat. Another woman at a previous meeting said she'd seen migrants field dressing roadkill on the side of the highway and snatching park birds up to cook up in, quote, some barbaric stew. Now, if I may just state, my brother and his friend once field dressed a deer that somebody had hit by the roadside because they wanted the meat. So, I mean, it's something people do. I'm not going to lie.
Sure. When it's a deer or a bison, then the whites will handle those kind of animals. But a squirrel or a geese, no, that's not happening. Yeah, I mean, it just sounded like this was your stereotypical right-wing trope to sit there and go after immigrants.
And also, the kid thing, I'm not quite sure. Again, I don't think, and JD Vance even admitted on a news show, I think today or yesterday, that story was made up. But his excuse was, if I need to make up stories to get the word out to people how Americans are suffering today, that's what I'm going to do.
And that is in itself exactly the state of American politics, which is openly, our politicians openly acknowledging we lie, but if it helps us, then that's what's best for the country.
Right.
And somehow we still are looking at a Democrat and Republican option, and that is all that we get to decide who is going to be our president for our next 4 years of this country, which is absolutely wild and embarrassing and just shameful.
But I mean, I also feel like there is enough horrible real stories going on with Americans these days that you could use those.
Fox
I feel like you don't need
News,
to make them up.
Fox News has so many stories of immigrants who have recently entered this country from predominantly Hispanic countries in Central and South America who have been arrested for committing crimes, violent crimes. They could literally run those stories for the next, what are we looking at? 2 months. And they would be able to, satisfy, the hatred for immigrant need that we are feeding on the right. They don't need to make up stories.
Sure.
Which is what makes it so much, all the more egregious that you've just got these made up stories. And if I'm not correct, wasn't it even the mayor or the police chief of Springfield, Ohio, who got up there and said, this story is baseless. Please stop quoting this story. There is no truth to the story. And the Republicans who normally back police leaders just sat there, was like, he's lying. Let's keep telling the story.
Well, and the woman apparently from Springfield who had made the Facebook post that went viral, she made the post based off of something a neighbor of her had told her. She came out this weekend and said, I was wrong. I put this out there on social media. I've deleted it. It's horrible what's happening. Because they've had bomb threats all over Springfield. They've had to close schools. They've had to close public buildings because, you've got all these lunatics out there that grab this little nugget of misinformation and run with it.
Has anybody spoke to Homer Simpson to see if this is happening in his backyard?
So I will say I was at work the following day and I said, this really sounds more like a Shelbyville thing. And the person I said that to just nothing. I'm like, come on, that's a fantastic Simpson
That's a great
joke.
line. That's a great line. That's a great line. That's a good reference.
Genius is never recognized in its lifetime, Brian.
No. Which is why I'm going to tell you something. After you and I are dead, these episodes are going to be just cherished by the next generation. Absolutely cherished.
I picture 200 years from now, a society that is based solely off of our podcast.
Of course. Janelle makes a good point because I do remember seeing the video of this. Abortions happening after birth. And which opens up the next one, which was the fact-checking of Trump during the debate. I saw several clips where Trump would make one of the lies that he's just known to do and expect to just be treated with reverence and get away with it. One of his comments was that in some of the liberal Democratic states, politicians were promoting abortion after birth. And one of the moderators fact-checked him. I forgot what her name was. I do not remember who either. I didn't watch the debate. She fact-checked him. She said there's no state in this union that allows murder after, at any point in life. Right. It's not legal. And it just caused the right to sit there and say, how dare they fact-check him but not fact-check her? And the comment I read was that's because she's not lying the same way Trump was.
Right. They didn't need to fact check because she was sticking with the facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also and the one. Sorry, you were going to say.
No. Go ahead. I was just going to say. Oh boy. Go ahead.
The one clip that I saw that I thought was genius of Harris was when she goaded Trump into talking about his rallies and how people leave them early because they're so boring. and then watching him spin out of control, literally out of control, that he could not handle defending himself. And watching her, I mean, she really had some amazing glances because she would look and just like make eye contact. She wasn't looking so much, but she would look at him and like just the facial reactions were just so on. I mean, just she was everything that Biden needed to be and wasn't. So, for all those people who are saying that Biden got railroaded, that, he got thrown out by the power elite of the Democratic Party. Listen, she is exactly the generation that we need to have as politicians, not her parents.
And I especially love the clip where it seemed like she really wanted to call him a motherfucker when she was talking about, when he was inviting Hamas to Camp David and everything, and she was like, "This former president," and like everybody was just like I saw so many clips of people watching the debate at a bar being like, "Do it." Yeah. But and the kid thing again, and Janelle brings up a point. Abortions after birth are called school shootings, but it's like, if you are concerned about little Jimmy going to school and having to go on a horrible operation, you should see what happens to Jimmy when he's shot with an AR-15. It's like that's much worse.
No, we don't even know what it looks like because they won't release those photos.
Oh,
there are photos out there of what it looks like They won't release them. They release
photos of what a kid looks like after being shot repeatedly with an assault weapon. Weapons would be there would be a lot of gun control pushed in this country, and
they won't do it. They don't have the balls to do it. The gun lobby in this country is so powerful, and it is to the detriment of this country.
Maybe, though, we will see some talk from Republicans about gun control now that there apparently has been a second assassination attempt on former President Trump. There was an alleged gunman on his course in Florida Sunday afternoon. That gentleman's name is Ryan Wesley Routh, age 58, from North Carolina. Lengthy criminal record, apparently. He has frequently posted about politics and exclusively donated to Democratic candidates and causes dating back to 2019. He declared back in a post on Twitter in April, "Democracy is on the ballot and we cannot lose."
Okay. He should go to jail for a long time, such as the rest of his life.
Well, and this is what I don't get. So apparently Secret Service noticed him he was on a hole. I forget what hole he was on, but Trump was one hole back. So
this guy was golfing.
He was not golfing. He was in the trees. He had a backpack. He had his weapons with him. He wasn't golfing, but he was hiding in the trees of the golf course, apparently. And he was but the hole that he was hiding near, Trump was about to play that hole after he finished the current one. What the fuck is going on with the Secret Service? This is two times now. How can, again, I understand he does not get the same level of Secret Service protection that he would if he was a sitting president. But how does twice in a 30 to 45 day period are two gunmen able to get so close to a former president?
To me, it's bad. It's just, I mean, at some point you do have to step up the level of protection on this guy. It seems like, he didn't get as close as it was when he was in Pennsylvania where the shooting was. However, it just seems like, this was another person got very close to him. With a rifle, just scary. I mean, as much as I do not like Donald Trump, I do not believe that another American has the right to kill him. I know it's easy for people like, oh, he should drop dead. You know what? Right. If nature wants to take him, and say that his time is now. Okay, fine. But I don't believe that an American has a right to kill him because you don't like him or you don't agree with him.
And the last thing you want to do is make this guy a martyr.
Sure, of course.
Defeat the ideology.
But in any cult, you take away the leader, and it's very rare that somebody steps in with the level of power that happens earlier. Sherlock over here, maybe his SS doesn't like him either. There's no need to make Nazi jokes here. You know, the SS were terrible, terrible people.
I think she's referring to the Secret Service.
Oh! I didn't pick up on that. I'm sorry. I thought it was a Nazi thing.
I think you get confused because you see all the people at his rallies that have the SS patch on their jackets.
Well done.
Thank you. Let's go out to California, Brian, where a state senator apparently forced a former staffer to do sexual favors for her while she was his boss as part of a quid pro quo relationship that left him riddled with back and hip injuries. This is according to a new lawsuit. So, Brian, this is Senator Marie Alvarado Gil. Her former chief of staff, Chad Condit, hit her with the lawsuit last week, alleging the lawmaker, a longtime Democrat who recently jumped ship to the Republican Party, pressured him into performing sex acts on her when they traveled for work. The married aide claimed he relented and performed the acts on his boss over the years as part of a sex-based quid pro quo relationship in order to protect his job. On their final encounter, Condon alleges, he suffered a debilitating back injury while having to, quote, twist and contort as he performed oral sex on the senator in a car, leaving him with 3 herniated discs and a collapsed hip.
Really?
The staffer claims he started using his back injury as an excuse to reject her advances in August last year, but she allegedly retaliated and handed him a disciplinary letter with accusations of inappropriate behavior leveled against him. He was then fired in December after repeatedly making clear that the sexual advances were no longer welcome.
Eesh, I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, does it say, I mean, I know this is somewhat scandalous and maybe we can't, talk about it, except during After Dark, but what were the sex acts that she was making him perform that would have these debilitating physical injuries occur to him?
So to go back to the statement I made about 90 seconds ago, Brian, he apparently was performing oral sex on her in a car and ended up with 3 herniated discs and a injured hip.
Okay, listen. I was very popular in high school. I performed a lot of oral sex in cars. I mean, I know the move. You slide down halfway, you bend your legs at the knee, and you just go to town. I never herniated a disc. I mean, there had to be more. It can't just be.
Were you doing it right? How did the guys like it? I know. Low-hanging fruit, Brian. I should try and do better. I should do better. I should be better.
When I go low, Ron, you go high. Listen to Michelle. That's what Michelle
When
wanted.
you go low, you apparently don't injure your discs or your hip in a car.
Okay, that's good.
Brian.
That was good.
You like
that was
one,
very
huh?
good.
You like that one.
That was very good. I appreciate that.
Speaking about putting your penis in places it shouldn't go, Dave Grohl announced this week that he fathered a child out of wedlock. Was it an Instagram post that he did it in? It felt like a very weird way that he did it.
It was an Instagram post that he made. It was something that his PR person wrote. And it could not have been, in my opinion, more disappointing. Not the fact that he had a child out of wedlock, because at the end of the day, that's he's a human being. He is not a god. He is not a saint. He is not better than any other human being that walks this earth. Is it disappointing that this is what he does? 100%. Does it make him hypocritical as he has promoted himself as this family man? But the Instagram post, obviously written by whatever crisis management team he had put together in a short period of time, it reeked of just glossing over, the real issue that took place. He's like, oh, we appreciate, your respect for our privacy as I welcome this new member of my family, and I work so hard to regain the trust of my wife and children. Meanwhile, apparently, his daughters have all dropped out of social media. I've read rumors that the woman he had this child with was a family friend that they've known for years. I don't know. It's none of my business. But I was very much surprised at the level of grief that was publicly shared by people who somehow saw him not as a human being, but as this super amazing, can do no wrong human being.
Yeah, it seems like people were like, I can't believe it. To your point, listen, great musician, great entertainer. At the end of the day, still a human being, still the same weaknesses and foibles as the rest of us.
There were plenty of stories of him having affairs on previous girlfriends in his life before he got married.
That's what I thought. But I mean, again, I don't know why people were necessarily surprised by this. Again, maybe because, he does a lot of good things. He says a lot of the right things. Great from Billy. There goes my hero. I also loved the people. So remember how, I think it was the Learning to Fly video, because that took place on an airplane, right? Like that was the whole, and he dressed as like a little girl, like people taking that screenshot of him and being like, a child learning that Dave Grohl is his father today.
Yeah. It's just wild. I mean,
so Allie's saying the problem was not that he had an affair. The problem was the age difference. What was the age difference? I have to admit, I am not 100%.
I heard at some point that the woman was a childhood friend of his daughter's.
Oh,
that's been alleged. It has not been proven. It has not been acknowledged. Janelle says the girl is 20. Again, I've not seen anywhere where that has been confirmed. Those are just allegations, and I think at this point, it is important that we don't jump to conclusions. Hold the man responsible.
Allie's saying she was 19 when they met. He was 30. Problematic.
Legal. All I'm saying, still legal.
Legal, but problematic nonetheless. This story, again, not funny, but kind of funny. This next one coming up.
It's probably not going to be funny. It's not going to be funny, Rob.
Come on. I mean, if you have a horrible sense of humor like we do, it might be a little bit funny, because we are going out to Colorado where a teen was shot in the face by a town council member while trying to ask the official's girlfriend for permission to take homecoming photos on her property. According to police, the 17-year-old boy told authorities that he and a friend hopped the fence at a home in Conifer, about 30 miles southwest of Denver, and walked up the driveway on Tuesday in hopes of speaking with the homeowner about using their property for homecoming photos. When they were unable to find the homeowner, they returned to their car and began writing a note to ask about using the property for a photo shoot. Moments later, a truck pulled up next to them on the road. Its driver, Brett Metz, 38, got out and shot at the boy through their car's windshield, striking one of the boys in the face. Police were called to the home by the homeowner, who reported two trespassers and found the boy bleeding heavily from his face as his friend applied pressure to the wound. Apparently, that ends up with him getting arrested. So here is his shot right there.
He looks like an asshole.
It seems a little.
Ron, is there a cat? Is there a cat in distress behind you?
That Finnegan wants to get in the office, and Finnegan can be a little bit loud when he wants something.
Listen, there's 5 minutes left in the show. Go get up. I will bash this guy for republicanism and conservatism and gun rights. Go let Finnegan into your office. That poor cat has maybe 12, 15 years living on this earth. Why don't you try to make that period of time as enjoyable for that loving cat as possible? Let the animal in your office. Clearly fan of the podcast.
Well, anyway, Brian, this gentleman was arrested and booked in jail on charges of first-degree assault, felony menacing, illegal discharge of a firearm, and reckless endangerment. The teen was still hospitalized as of Wednesday.
Yeah, I think this guy deserves to be in prison for a very long time.
Like, it'd be one thing if like the kids were coming up to the house or, they were on the property, but like they're literally sitting in the car writing a note. And the first thing he does is just get out of the truck and fire through the windshield.
He showed up completely aggro. All he had to do was say, hey, can I help you kids? What are you doing on my girlfriend's property? Have they explained, hey, this is, there's no reason why this ends in gunfire. And this is exactly one of the reasons why this here. Ooh, Billy with the great reference.
On fire.
He's right. He's right. Mrs. Ron is watching TV downstairs. She is not paying attention to the podcast.
So Billy said, Ron's cat cares more about the podcast than my wife does. 100% true. 100%.
He's right. Billy's right. 100%.
When you're right, you're right. When you're right, you're right.
What else do we got?
We've got celebrity obituaries. We lost some people this week, Brian. Varying levels of fame and stardom. Starting off with a man referred to as the world's most monstrous bodybuilder, Ilya Golem Yefimchik, dead at the age of 36. Here is him posing. A lot of bulk going on there. A lot of bulk. I'm assuming a lot of protein, a lot of eggs, a lot of chicken being eaten in this man's diet. He allegedly suffered a heart attack at home on September 6th and fell into a coma, citing Belarus and Russian media. He apparently did not recover from the heart attack and passed away. He maintained 25-inch biceps through a monster diet of up to 16,500 calories a day, possibly eating dogs and cats. It also, his 7 daily meals also included over 5 pounds of steak and more than 100 pieces of sushi. He ironically did not compete in professional bodybuilding, but shared his workouts online, where he had over 100,000 followers across all platforms. So, going to go out on a limb and say maybe there was some supplement use there.
Little geese, maybe a little geese.
Well, high protein. Interesting.
According to the Haitians love that high protein meal. Loving the geese.
It keeps you full in between meals. I mean, and I think that's important because you don't want to snack. Like, what are you going to do? You're gonna have a guinea pig or a chipmunk in between meals? No, that's how you put on weight, Brian. You get that protein wherever you can get it.
But I mean, if you put that picture up again, take a gander at him.
You want me to put the picture up again? Good Lord.
No, I was trying to make a geese gander joke, Ron.
Oh, all right. I missed it. My apologies. Moving on to the next passing, Waffle House president and CEO Walt Emmer passing away at the age of 58. Cause of death and details surrounding his passing have yet to be revealed. City of Atlanta, very sad where they are based, saying that he leaves behind a remarkable legacy.
Listen, there's only 2 reasons why he possibly passed away. One is that he spent the last 30 years eating at the Waffle House. I mean, you are talking about a high-fat, high-calorie, high-cholesterol diet when you go to the Waffle House. That's like to me, a Waffle House is a once-a-year meal. Anytime you're going to the Waffle House more often than once a year, I think you need to be on some Strattera or that's not the cholesterol medication. What is the I fucked it up. Never mind. The other one here, Sherlock says it right here. Shot by an irate customer. He got into a fight. He got into a 2 a.m. fight with an employee because we all have seen enough videos on Instagram of staff in a Waffle House at 2 a.m. in the morning literally beating the daylights out of a customer. It's the only place you go to where the staff is empowered by corporate to fight back for their defense. You work at Target, somebody starts stealing, you're required to let them walk out. You're an employee of Walgreens, somebody walks in there and starts taking Head and Shoulders, you'll get fired if you try to stop them. At the Waffle House, someone sits there and says, hey, listen, give me one of those 2 eggs over easy with some sausage and some white toast. You walk out without paying. Their employees are encouraged to stampede out the door after you and beat the living daylights out of you, not only outside of the parking lot, but they'll drag you back in. They'll drag you back into the Waffle House and beat the shit out of you. Why? There's better lighting. There's great lighting in a Waffle House. Those fight videos in the Waffle House, so superior than any fight video I've ever seen in a McDonald's, a Burger King. No, Waffle House staff beating customers, great content. Always.
As you know, Brian, I had dinner at Waffle House while I was traveling for work this week. It's somewhere in the middle of Virginia, and it was disappointing because there was no violence while I was there.
Oh, what did you have?
Quiet. I had the All-Star. So that I had my 2 eggs over easy. I had my hash browns peppered. I had some bacon. I had some toast with that and some coffee. The guy who waited on me looked like Carl Gallagher from Shameless during his gangster phase. It was an interesting experience.
You said you were there for dinner. You said you were there for dinner. So what time are we talking here?
This would have been probably 6-ish at night.
Ron, the fights don't start until 11. You got there way too early.
11, 3 a.m. is when you got to go to a Waffle House.
You got there, and like the line cook was just taping up his hands. He was just preparing. He was starting up. So you had breakfast for dinner that day at the Waffle House.
I did have breakfast for dinner. What was interesting also, there must have been 4 or 5 people working. But the poor kid who took my order also had to cook everything too, while everyone else is just kind of sitting around not doing much.
Why? They're the ringers. They're there for the fights. Like he is there to cook the food.
The plate gets dropped in front of me, and just the puddles of melted butter on top of the eggs. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be delicious, but this is taking 7 years off my life right here.
So is it that surprising? The CEO of Waffle House.
He worked at Waffle House since 1992. He should be thankful that he survived this long.
Do you know how many sticks of butter that man has taken in over the years? Massive.
Also passing away this week, member of the 1969 Mets team that won the World Series, Ed Kranepool, passing away at the age of 79. Brian, I know you were pretty shook up about all of this. You've started to become a pretty big Mets fan later in life, but he went from a Bronx high school to the big leagues at the age of 17. Spent all of his 18 major league seasons in Flushing, passing away after suffering cardiac arrest.
He died in Flushing?
He died in Boca Raton, but
played in Flushing. Okay, just making sure. Listen, Ed Kranepool recently signed a baseball for me. Thank you, William Esquire, for obtaining that baseball. You're a real one. But yes, I have a signed baseball by Ed Kranepool. Not a great penmanship there. But yeah, listen, 1969 Mets. For a team that 5 years earlier was the worst in baseball, to turn it around so quickly and win the World Series, kudos to him. He will be missed by
Not
Mets
a Hall of
fans
Famer,
and
though,
other
right?
pieces. No, he wasn't that good.
I like how you're just like, he'll be remembered. Yeah, not that good though.
He was a Met. I mean, you know how hard it is to get into the Hall of Fame as a Met? I mean, I don't think they have many Hall of Famers.
Trying to think. Tom Seaver,
Nolan Ryan. I'm going to say Mike Piazza made it.
Do you look at Nolan Ryan as a Met, or do you look at? I mean, I look at him as a Ranger.
Yeah, but that was because he had already moved on from the Mets by the time we came in. I think he played for the Mets probably for like half a dozen seasons in the beginning of his career.
All right,
but we were too young. I think we missed out on it.
Well, Brian, definitely the toughest passing of the week, passing away at age 93, James Earl Jones, obviously the voice of Darth Vader. He was in Field of Dreams.
Yep.
I mean, the
Coming
list
to
of
America.
accolades. Coming to America. I mean, what a great film. The Lion King. He was Mufasa in The Lion King. Did a lot of voiceover work.
He was in Conan
Conan the
Barbarian.
Barbarian.
Don't
Jeez.
forget him in that role. I mean,
The
guy just.
Sandlot.
Yeah. What about Hunt for Red October? One of my favorite movies.
Was he in Hunt for Red October? Or you just mentioned
He played the head of the CIA, who was Jack Ryan's boss.
All right.
Remember when he's launching the missile? He goes, "I was never here. That missile self-destructed, and nobody knows anything." And the guy was like, "Yep."
So, legendary
this is a big
actor.
loss, yes.
Yeah. But I mean, again, making it to
Big
age
loss.
93, pretty good on his part.
Yeah. I mean, listen, for Americans of our generation, there is absolutely nothing more emotionally stirring than the voice of Darth Vader. It was, a trilogy that defined my childhood. It was the original Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Revenge of the Jedi, to the voice of Darth Vader literally made you feel something just by him talking. And not only that, but I mean, if just the power of the man's voice was the fact that he wasn't even on camera, was
Right.
that it literally was, the character was somebody inside of a costume, yet could literally scare the daylights out of an entire audience. Real big.
I mean, also does the "This is CNN."
No.
Yeah. You've never
No.
realized that was James Earl Jones doing that?
When he goes, "This is CNN."
Yeah.
That's
they go to
James.
commercial break, and that's James Earl Jones.
I thought that was James Earl Ray.
No, it was
James
not.
Earl Jones did the voice for "This Is CNN." I'm gonna check that right after this show.
All right. Please do. Billy doing a little quick fact checking. Mike Piazza, forgot completely about Piazza, and Tom Seaver, only people in the Hall of Fame with a Mets hat.
Piazza went in there with a Mets hat?
Well, he played for who else? The Dodgers at the end of his career, but
played for Florida. Played for
Mets.
Florida for a year.
Yeah.
I thought he came up. No, didn't he come up with the Dodgers? Why did my voice just crack?
I don't know.
I thought he came up with the Dodgers. Then he went down to Miami for a bit. Then he went to the Mets for the rest of his career.
So neither Dwight Gooden nor Darryl Strawberry are in the Hall of Fame.
Too much crack. They never would be able to get through. Yeah, he was never. And not only that, here, check this out. Billy says he was with Florida for a few weeks. I watched him play twice in Florida when he was a Marlin. It was a very short period of time. 1998.
A little trivia for you there. Yes.
What are you doing after this show?
You know what I'm going to do, Brian? I think we're going to head over for our Patreon folks, and we are going to do Ron and Brian After Dark in a scant 22 minutes. If you are not a Patreon subscriber just yet, what in the hell is wrong with you? Go to ronandbrianpodcast.com, click in the upper right-hand corner to become a patron. And if you join at the $10 level or higher, you can join us for the After Dark. It is special content for it. Good point from Janelle. Brian's going to go do dishes and be late for After Dark, much like last week.
Hold on. You can bust my chops for doing dishes in between the regular show and After Dark. Every now and then I like to pull back the curtain. But I still was able to walk away a winner in Can You Beat Brian that we had last week. Listen,
That's
it
true.
was another incredible Can You Beat Brian. Ron, you put together some just great games. Last week, you visited my ivory tower, and it left you with a sense of what a gilded life was like. Questions just about billionaires, or as I like to call them, my neighbors. It was just a great game. However, for the second month in a row, I hold my head up high as nobody can beat me.
There you go.
However, I have already started planning Can You Beat Ron for later this month. Oh, I have already.
We're just 2 weeks away from our next pajama party where Can You Beat Ron. But again, if you want to join us in a scant, I'm going to keep using the word scant 20 minutes now, go to ronandbrian.com, subscribe. You get swag, you get access, and most of all, you get our appreciation.
We appreciate that.
All right. Brian, anything else before we wrap up episode 321 and get ready for After Dark?
Not at all. This was a great episode. It was a pleasure doing it. I appreciate everybody watching with us, joining the show. Those in the chat right now, you keep the show going. You breathe life. It's great when you correct Ron and when you compliment the comments that I make. It's a great feeling. Let's go do After Dark, Ron.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. We'll catch you again next week.
Thank you for joining us on the Ron and Brian podcast. We're live each week on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find prior episodes, links to our social media, and everything else Ron and Brian at ronandbrianpodcast.com. See you again.